this is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best. And like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest. And y'all know how I do. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Moses McKenzie Jr., born and raised, city of Patterson, B-Town, proud dad, principal, Patterson Public Schools, PS number 20. Well,
cool, man. Thank you for joining us today. So those watching, you already know, you heard them shout out Patterson. You know that's where I was also born and raised. And so I had the opportunity to spend some life and some time in the sport of football with our Dr. Moses McKenzie, both graduates of Eastside High School, played football, and both were proud ghosts. And so it's an awesome opportunity because I never was on the field with him because he was a senior my freshman year. But again, had an opportunity. He was one of the very many seniors that I had an opportunity to look up to and learn from a distance on the field as we were in practice. So it's an awesome opportunity to really go through life and what's happened for him since leaving Eastside High School. So you ready to get into the questions, sir?
I'm ready, sir. Let's get it going. Let's go.
All right. So you already let them know, born and raised in Patterson, New Jersey. So we'll get right into the sports aspect. When did you start playing football?
I started playing football late. In the career. You know, as I have a brother, Morris, they call him Blue. We started late. My dad is a baseball fan.
Okay.
Dad is a baseball fan, so we started out playing baseball, and then my cousins down in South Carolina, when we used to travel for the family union every Memorial Day weekend, you know, my cousin, who's the skinniest one in the family, was playing football. We were like, we want to try football. And I got into football when, you know, Al Moody was coach. Wow. Andy Muckle. You know, They had the teams back in the day with Abe Brown. You know, these are gentlemen where, you know, my father and those gentlemen put us together at Eastside Park. We practiced on the Little League baseball field. And I played for Bottom Line. Played against Chris and Sean Collins. They played for Kentucky. You had Mid-Atlantic, you know, so that generation of football started right from Pee Wee. And then we moved right on from there into high school. And after that, everything took off.
And so those that know a little history, and I may have touched on it once or twice throughout some shows, but as he mentioned, was the little league that we had back in the day. The name of the league was PINFL, Patterson Instructional Midget Football League. And so I had my older brother was actually the coach of one of the teams he named, the Atlantic Bank, which was formerly, you know, and I forgot the title of the name. I think it was New Jersey Bank or something like that. But
it was one of the old federal banks used to have in Patterson on the corner of Broad.
And so it moved on to be Atlantic Bank was the team. And so my oldest brother actually coached that team. And so it's definitely history in Patterson. Anybody that watch this show or hear that, you know, it would definitely take you back, that league, the teams that he named them, as far as Bottom Line and all of them.
It's
just history in Patterson. You know, we have many different leagues now, and there's still awesome little league football players coming up in Patterson. But that was the history of Patterson. So it's just cool to hear him say that. I didn't actually play PINFL, but I was my brother's ball boy for a couple years. And he said he started late. I happened to start when I was in high school. I tried out. This gonna bring you back. I tried out for the Gladiators in my 8th grade year.
Oh, wow.
So I tried out for the Gladiators my 8th grade year, had a medical issue. They wouldn't clear me to play. So I moved on. And my first year of actually playing football was my freshman year at Eastside.
Wow. Okay.
So it's just good to hear that information, man, and how you guys started. And so he's already told us what influenced him to start playing. Just like, tell me a little bit about the things that you enjoyed as you moved on, even into high school and playing football.
I think, you know, started sports at a young age. You know, my dad was a military man, he's a Vietnam vet. You know, so him and my mom, I had a mom and a dad at home, very structured. Very disciplined. And so we had to, you know, be athletic. He had 2 boys. So, you know, we wasn't going to stay around the house, clean the yard, get out and play sports, had to be in church all day on Sunday. Okay. But, you know, growing up through that era, those 80s and the 90s, moving into high school, that's when we started to see real athletes. We had the foundation, but once you get into high school, that freshman year, I went in to high school, oh man, 88, 89, that Eastside 88 team was, Shaquan, Black Star, or, the McDonald twins,
Right.
I was a freshman, Mike and all of them. And so when we transitioned, I was like, I had to get in the weight room. We started to eat. My dad made sure our nutrition was right. And so as I started as a freshman, I was big and chunky. I played line. I had no problems playing the line, but we were tough going in. And we stayed in the weight room. We stayed at each other's houses because our parents wanted us to be successful, and we really got our work done. We did our homework and stuff together. And so moving through those 4 years of high school was just tremendous because it gave me a solid foundation on what I wanted to do once I got into college, and of course, I didn't get the scholarship. I got the scholarship because I was academically smart. Physically, I was okay. A couple tackles, I'm good. I could run. But academically, I was just smart and I was solid. And so I got the scholarship from there, academic scholarship, to go to King's College in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
And when I went to King's College, that's when everything turned around because I never was hurt. I'm playing up there, but I went in through, which is some of our athletes are really gonna encounter. I was one of only 5 African Americans on that team.
Okay.
And we're talking Pennsylvania football. There's a big difference between Jersey football, Pennsylvania football, Texas football, Florida football.
Right.
So there are levels to this because you can go to any one of those states in a high school game on a Friday night, got 3, 4, 5,000 people.
Correct.
In Patterson, we packed the stadium out, Thanksgiving?
Right. Correct.
Thanksgiving, Old Hinchcliffe Stadium, going
Right.
to see the Eastside Kennedy, the rival. But this was weekly, and to go up there, man, it really opened my eyes because I thought I was strong, and as an athlete, I'm from Patterson, I'm from P-Town, I'm thinking I'm the dude, and I was fifth string. I was fifth string with the academic scholarship. I was fifth string, and I couldn't get on a traveling team for nothing. And, I went through a little time, a little depression, but see, my coaches supported me. We're talking, those coaches, Donald Davis, Kenny Davis, Barry Rosser, Skeemy, Hawkins. Those men really mentored me. It's like, you got to keep pushing, keep trying. And that's what we try to do now with our athletes. You have to be mentally tough. And once I went through that transition, I got blackballed up there. I had to leave. I left middle of the spring semester, and I called home. I called Donald Davis, and I said, listen, I'm not going to play up here, man. Academically, I'm okay. And Patterson came down and fully supported me. My family, they told, you know what? He's going back to Jersey. When I got back to Jersey, I applied to Montclair and William Patterson. I had to pick which one I wanted to go to, and I decided to go to Montclair. And then after that, I ran into, probably one of the best coaching staffs I played for. And I had a great time up there at Montclair State and graduated in 96.
That's good. That's good. So you touched a couple areas talking about King. King is a school I'm slightly familiar with because my son, who is now going into his senior year, playing at Albright in Reading, Pennsylvania, he was also recruited by King. So a little familiar, and not here to dog King today, but I will say there were some things during the recruiting process. I was so happy he didn't make that decision.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar a little bit with King and everything like that. But it's just, again, awesome that I love when people come on, my guests come on, and able to kind of give kids a view of what can go on or some of the things that you might encounter. But the awesome thing you touched on earlier was that what got you into school was your education. And it's the same thing that's going to keep you when your career is over with.
Right. And that's what you got to remind these athletes. Listen, I was a phys ed teacher. I was at Kennedy. I graduated from Eastside in 92 and ended up being a phys ed teacher for 7 years at Kennedy.
Wow.
So, Kennedy and Eastside was like oil and water. But my goal was to not only be a good administrator or a good phys ed teacher, I wanted to make sure these kids got it. And I had top athletes in my class. I had Nicole Loudon. Loudon, who's all listen, she was the cream of the crop. She would come in before phys ed. shoot
Wow.
100 free throws after
Wow.
phys ed. Go to class, come in before practice, shoot another 100 free throws. And I was like, why do you do that? She's like, because I want to be the best. But she knew
Wow.
how to manage her time because she was an academic athlete as well. And then when you
Wow.
look at these kids, today's athletes, you know, everybody wants to shoot the three, and you know, they really think they strong. And I said, listen, let me tell you how, you know, I may not have made it to the pros, but you're gonna need an education. And that's
Right.
what I push with these kids, you know, and I love sports. I watch sports. I collaborate with some, you know, former athletes. And you got to look at who came out of Patterson. Tim Thomas, you know, look
Yeah.
at Tim. James, you look at Chris Collins went to Michigan. Look at
Right.
Sean Collins right now. Went to Zatiti Moody, who, you know,
The
has
pick.
a school name after his father. He went
Yeah.
to Pitt. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Queasy went up the ball. You know these gentlemen that play
Yeah.
top ball. Victor's
Yeah.
from Patterson. But
Right.
what they can say is, I got an education. And
That's
without
right.
education, today's athletes would be lost, because you have to even look at how they speak. You know, it's a different world whenever you got all the cameras
That's
on
right.
you and they're trying to interview you. You have to make sure that you're articulate. You have to make sure that you're representing not only yourself, you're representing that team, because you're wearing those team colors. And you need to make sure that the up and coming athletes see something or hear something that you're saying in order for them to go to that school. And so, you know, I just use that with my students now, you know, and I have a K through 8 school. And, you know, I told them, I said, listen, you can be a great athlete. I have 3 kids who are 6'3", 6'4", 8th grade.
Wow. Wow.
6'4", and they walk around eating Takis. And I'm looking at them like, no, we're not doing that. And I'll go and buy them a hoagie. If I
Right.
spend hundreds of dollars, like, I'll buy the food for them. You got to change your diet. Now talk to the parents, you know, because I want the best for them, because not too many athletes, you know, in 8th grade that are 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds,
Right.
junk food. Yeah, this is your body's your temple. This is what's going to make that money
Yeah.
for you.
That's
But I
true.
make sure when they come academically, you know, they're plus they're part of Omega Teens. And you know how the Bros are. You know how the Qs are in
That's
Patterson.
right.
Listen, we push academic scholarship is #1 on our book, you know, and I want to make sure that they understand, hey, if I don't make it to the pros, I got an education to fall back on.
That's
But right
good.
now, you know, today's athlete, we try to make sure we help them and strengthen them mentally, because they're going to get down and depressed.
Right.
Statistics have shown, you know, not too many, you know, athletes are going to make that basketball squad.
That's right.
Everybody that you shooting that 15-foot jumper, there are 5 or 6 others, possibly 10 others that can shoot it just as easy as you and faster and quicker than you. What are
That's
you
right.
going to do? How hard do you want it? You may spend your whole career in the G League.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You may not make it to the pros. You may end up being a coach, but at least you understand your purpose when it comes to sports.
That's good. Well, that's good. And it's always like, wow, it's awesome to just hear when we have people like yourselves that are in the school system to really impact the lives of our young people. Because we know, coming from Patterson, not everybody came from the same environment we came from as far as a household. Having both parents there, having people
Right.
to kind of mentor you along the way. Because I even know in having a 2-parent home, there are things that I still had to figure out after
Right.
I was outside of the home. So
Right.
even more, it always hits my heart. I worked in law enforcement for over 17 years, you know, most of it was 15 years in detention. So I had an opportunity to speak to so many young people and
Right.
to hear that missing, whether one parent or both parents was missing, they didn't
Right.
have mentors in their life to give them the information that you're giving them in the school system. And that is what our school systems need all over this country. Just more young Black males to really impact our young people coming up. You know,
Right.
positive role models, and not just Black, but male role models, white, any other colors, just those that will impact the lives. Because our young men in this world are not seeing positive male role models. And so
Right.
it's good to have people like yourself in the school system, man. And I appreciate you. I'm all the way in North Carolina, but I appreciate what you're doing up there, because Patterson is still home for me. And so I
Right.
appreciate what you're doing, sir, and
Thank you.
impacting those lives of those young people.
Really appreciate it, man.
Well, man, so as we continue on, you're in college. Like, what were some of the things that you had to, even playing ball from King to even Montclair State? What are some things or advice that you could give the young student athlete on how to keep a balance with keep staying on top of your grades while also pursuing your career in football? What are some things that you can give them going forward?
I can tell the athlete, no matter what level, especially D1, there are people there to help you. They have a system in place to help you. You have to get out of bed, go to class. You need to learn. You need to have a solid foundation, ELA, math, science, social studies. This is all cross curriculum. You need to have a passion. So, and I tell athletes, and my student athletes right now, I tell them, okay, if you don't make it to pros, what are you going to do? I'm not letting you go until you give me an answer. What do you want to do? Well, I like to draw. Okay, well, let's go into how you can be, possibly a cartoon artist. How can you create your own cartoon? How can you become, be a part of a company that will hire you? Do you have a technology background? Right now, technology is very big right now.
Yes.
Business, sports business. So if you don't make it in sports, maybe you could be an agent. Look at these agents who are making millions of dollars because they came with a plan and said, I want to be your agent. I want to negotiate these millions of dollars for you. And I tell some of my students now, I said, listen, if you don't get it, I said, don't you want to move? Don't you want to see the big house? And today's generation, please understand, today's generation will talk about money all day. Right. They love it. They love the fashion. They love, they like the bling and everything. I said, do you not know that you can get it and not have to worry about paying the bills if you got an education? Do you understand that? Like, you won't have to struggle. Don't you want to move your family, out from where you are right now? Listen, I know I wanted to do it. I was proud of my dad for moving from a storefront, 3-bedroom home over to the east side part of Patterson. We felt like the Jeffersons when my dad was able to do that. But at the end of the day, now I want something even more for my daughter, who's 22 and who's a senior at Montclair State. So I tell these athletes, listen, have a goal, have a vision. How am I going to get there? And I have this saying, plan to execute the plan. That is my saying. If you don't have a plan, you can't execute a plan. You can't execute nothing if you don't have a plan. It doesn't make sense, right? In order for you to be successful, you got to write the vision and make it plain. Says it in a good book. Write it down. What am I going to do? How am I going to get there? How long is it going to take me to get there? Who out there can help me? When it comes to mentoring, okay, I can fall back on those who mentor me. They made no connections. And in today's society, everybody knows somebody.
That's right.
You don't burn bridges. I tell kids this, don't burn your bridge. Be careful. Hey, you may not, you may have a disagreement, but remember, you don't really, that person may come back into your life. In the back end, you may need that person. They may need you. So try not to burn your bridges. And I would tell today's athletes, go in, make sure you get a degree, get your bachelor's, get the first round, get that degree. After that, you see where your pro status can go. If you make semi-pro, you go semi-pro. And if you look at baseball, there are 3 levels, AAA, AA, single A. Then you go to the show, so, people you have to wait their turn unless you are a phenomenal athlete. And, if you take care of your body, eat right, stay in the weight room, pray, have that religious connection as well, and have that religious support, have that spiritual counselor in your family and in your circle, you can make it. That's what I tell my young athletes, starting from 8th grade. I look at them from 8th grade, and I got some good athletes. You look at the athletes that's up here right now, even at East Side and Kennedy, and even to the females. Our girls are phenomenal up here, and I want them to see that, hey, I'm a dad. I got a 22-year-old, Black and Puerto Rican girl, and she loves autism kids. I thought she was going to be an FBI agent. She's now wants to be an autism behaviorist. Like, I never saw that coming. And she's into it. She knows this is going to put bread on her table. She's engaged now. So she has come, full circle, and I didn't have to push her. I let her find her way. And that's what we got to tell today's athletes. We can drive them all we want to sports. Hey, you could do this, you got that, you could do this. But where are you going to be for that athlete if they don't make it? What is
Gotcha.
your approach then? How are you
Right.
going to pull them in and nurture them and say, hey, you may not have made it, but guess what? You did go to college, you got a degree, you have a master's degree. Let's put that master's degree to work and let's work on another plan. That's what I tell them.
That's good. That's good. So as we round up your time in college,
Right.
like as you're finishing up in college, like what was the thought process? Did you have a game plan already for what you wanted to go into as you were, exiting school with
Yeah.
your degree and everything? Did you have a plan?
Yeah, I had a plan. I went in as phys ed teacher.
Uh-huh.
You had to take a test to get into Panzer Gym. See,
Okay.
Panzer at Montclair State, not too many African Americans in Panzer. You had to take
Okay.
a test in order to get into Panzer at Montclair State. And so I was one of a few, literally,
Okay.
again, one of a few that got into that phys ed department at Montclair State. I blew my knee out in 96.
Okay.
And then my junior year, once I rehabbed it, went into my senior year, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to play pro ball, but I was happy with my decision. I was very
Okay.
happy. So I became an athletic trainer. I started training people, got certified, so my plan was to be a gym rat, train people. Then I was like, you know what? I want to teach. And after that, I went the alternate route and I became a teacher. And I started my teaching career in 99 at School 27 in the city of Patterson. And once I started my career, at the end of my first year, I received a phone call and I got a phone call from somebody from Kennedy and they said, you've been transferred. You're going to
Okay.
Kennedy. And I'm like, going to Kennedy? I went to Eastside. You're
All
going to
right.
Kennedy. I was like, okay, I'm going to
Wow.
Kennedy. And I had a successful 7 years there under the leadership, Frank Bonadies, who's a state
Right.
champion
Wow.
coach. Frank was my,
Yes.
this dude was my mentor, one of my mentors for 7 years. He's my department head,
Right.
and so wherever you saw Frank, you always saw Donald, you always saw Barry, they were always around. And so my plan was to be a teacher. And after that, I wanted to be a phys ed teacher for the rest of my career. I
Okay.
wanted to, but something changed. It's a funny story. I'll tell you a little bit of it. A friend of mine, her name is Cynthia Flores. So
Okay.
she was a Spanish teacher, and I saw her running in the parking lot one day after school. And I said, "Where are you going?" She's like, "I gotta go to class. I'm going to class." I was like, "You got a degree already?" She's like, "No, I'm getting my master's." And I was like, "Man, I'm not getting my master's. I ain't doing it.
Right.
I don't want to do that." And she said, "You know what? You don't like a challenge." And believe it or not, and this to God honest truth, she cursed me out.
Wow.
Hey, you want to be a simple, average black man? And I looked, I said, "Stop talking to me like that." She said, "No, I'm your friend." She said, "I love you to death." But she said, "You want to be a simple man, just wear shorts and sneakers all the rest of your career?" And I said, hmm. And I
Wow.
said, I went and talked to my family and I said, "I think I'm gonna go for my master's." And my dad looked at me and said, "Really?" I said, "I'm going for my master's." And guess what? I knocked my master's out in 2 years.
Okay.
I got my master's in 2 years, in 2010. And after that, sky was the limit. I now had a supervisor certification to be a supervisor, and I had my VP cert. And that's when I became, an administrator. I was in Irvington for 3 years. Then after that, I transitioned and I coached, put together coaches when I was the athletic director at Central High School. I became
Okay.
AD. And so
Wow.
watching those athletes and putting those coaches together, my 2 year stint at Central High School under leadership of Ras Baraka, who's now the mayor.
Wow.
Yeah, so, Ras Baraka wasn't even the mayor back then. He was a
Wow.
principal of a turnaround school, and we had great athletes there. And if you look up the history of Newark, Newark Central, they have a coach named Sean. They call him OG. And they were, presented and featured on ESPN about the program. I got a boys county and state championship first year, girls county championship, 2 coaches of the year, 2 track state and county championships, and I picked all of the coaches. And that's
That's
on my.
good.
You have to make sure that you got the right coaches. They're screaming and yelling. at our student athletes, today's student athletes, they're not going to take too much of that. You have to nurture these kids, after, getting through the pandemic, there are certain tones how you have to coach now. And I believe that there's been a shift in how today's athletes are nurtured and how we need to encourage them more. If they make a mistake, not a problem. That's why we coach. We don't coach out of anger. I don't mentor out of anger. I mentor out of love. And this is my calling right now, is to nurture our children academically. I'm a former athlete. I may not have made it to the pros, but I have a doctorate degree in education. So if they don't make it to the pros, they can at least get a master's or a doctorate degree and still be able to put food on the table for their families.
That's good. That's good. So let's talk about, your transition. Again, you get your doctorates, and let's go on and talk about you becoming the principal and that process. Like, how did that come about?
I became a principal. It fell in my lap. I waited. I was a good VP. I'm on record. I turned around a couple of schools, and I served. It's one thing I'm very proud of my mom and my dad. I was immersed in the servant leadership. And a lot of people don't know servant leadership requires dedication. Always, if nobody else shows up, if nobody else is on time, you need to be there on time. And that's the way my dad was. Nobody's at the church at 3:30. Guess what? His family was there. And we waited till people got there. And, I was a VP at School 20 for 2 years. And there were 3 people that were ahead of me for the principalship. And I just sat there. I waited my turn. And I got the call in 2020 and said, we want you to interview to be the principal. And after that, I had to really take that shift. There's a shift from being a vice principal to being a principal. You're no longer the support to the principal, but now you're going to need someone to support you. So now you're at the top. Now everything that happens in that building as a principal falls on you. And what I was able to do is reach out to some of my friends who are mentors, and they mentored me. And, right now I'm doing pretty good. We just accomplished a very big feat. We were able to be removed from targeted status, which is great, which means that we increase academically across the board with our Black and our Latino population in my building. 73% of my building is Hispanic, and so with, me leading and having a good support system, we was able to move to school. And right now I'm looking forward to finishing my career as a principal, and I have another level. I want to be a college professor. I want to teach leadership in college, in a university.
That's good. That's good. So we talk a lot about your dealings with the young athlete and some of the information and the things that you're able to pour into them. Let's just talk about your everyday as a principal. Like, what drives you when it comes to your interaction with these young people? Like, what drives you as a principal?
I think what drives me is I see something they don't see. I see students who are hungry, literally. The imbalance in equity in our buildings, even in today's society. I see families that need comforting, families that need someone to lean on, a shoulder to cry on. I see in our community with some of our families, someone that they can really trust. It's hard to trust someone when they just, there for the moment. But when you have to come into that building every morning, you want to make sure that you are the first face that they see. And so I'm driven to move our students to becoming more successful than me. I tell them, I said, I want you to be my boss one day. I have 4 staff members who were my teachers at Eastside.
Wow.
I am now their boss. And they look at me like, really? I said, yeah, Dr. Charles was my geometry teacher. He's now my math teacher. I'm his boss. And I try to make those connections so they understand, listen, you're destined to be great. It's just when you're going to get there, how you're going to get there. You're destined to be great. And so I'm driven when I wake up every morning, and I'm like a machine. I'm up at 4:30. I'm at the gym at 5. I'm at the building around 7 o'clock. And when the kids come in at 8:15, the first face they see is mine. First face they see. And just to get the smiles and the hugs and to greet my staff, it makes my day. Do I encounter bad days? Yes.
Gotcha.
Do we always have, good days every day? No. But I do know one thing. I'm able to see the smiling faces or decipher whether a student or staff member has had a good night based on their interactions with me. If I see little Johnny, hey, good morning, Mr. McKenzie. Good morning, Dr. McKenzie. And one day, little Johnny's like, good morning. Light bulb goes on.
Right.
Go and see him in about an hour. Through my daily walks, I visit every classroom twice a day.
That's good.
I want to make sure that they see my face. So I'm driven to show them that, hey, listen, as a Black man, born and raised, city of Patterson, 4th Ward, straight in Carroll Street, came from a storefront home, in church 6 days a week,
Right.
Dad is in Gospel Hall of Fame, mom's a preacher before my dad, I know what it takes, but I'm able to adjust and pivot now to tell our students, listen, you can make it, no matter how hard it gets. I know, some people have lost their families, at a young age, lost a mom or a dad at a young age. We lost a lot of people during COVID, lost my best friend, Dr. Glisson, during COVID, same age as me. But I know one thing, his family would never want for anything. And that's why I try to tell our students, listen, you were growing up to take care of your family. You're destined to take care of your mom and your dad, because that's what I do now. This is why you're here. And that's what drives me every day. It drives me every day for them to see a Black man, whether I'm in a suit or a tie, or on Fridays when I wear my Jordans, Miss, you got them Jordans too? Yeah, I have them. There was a time where I couldn't get them. My dad couldn't afford them. We wore McGregor's with the straps. We used to shop at Alexander's on Route 4. We ain't go to the mall. We had to get our shoes out of a bin that was tied with a piece of rope. I said, listen, you guys are blessed, man. But just know that I want you to live better than me, but I want you to do it the right way and have an education. That's what drives me every day.
Right. That's good. That's good. And I feel like you answered so much of this question, even with the last question I asked, but I'm still going to ask, there may be specific messages or words that you give, but for that group of students that are having hard times at home, don't feel like there's hope. I feel like working in the jail system, I ran into so many young people that were in the positions they were in because they simply felt like there was no hope. My quote that I give all the time is a Stephen Covey quote I give to young people, and letting them know that you're not a product of your circumstances, you're a product of your decisions. And that quote is big to me because coming from Patterson, being in Sumter, South Carolina, moving down to Fayetteville, North Carolina area, so many kids make decisions off of the circumstances that they're in. So if daddy and uncle and my mother is all in the drug game, I feel like that's what I have to do. If my family is struggling, then I feel like that's going to be my life struggle. And so just letting them know, if you make good decisions, you do the things that you've touched on already, and apply yourself in school and get an education, you don't have to be a product of your circumstances. And so my question to you is there something, a word that you may give all the time for those kids that you run in or goes to your school to give them hope?
Yeah.
That message of hope. What is a message that you give to your students?
It's a message. I have this even on my email. There's a poem called "See It Through," and one of the stanzas in that poem, and I tell them, and I always say it to them when I see them struggling, and they know, and they're started for me. And it says, "When you're up against a trouble, meet it squarely face to face. Lift your chin, set your shoulders, plant your feet, and take a brace. When it's vain to try and dodge it, do the best that you can do. Running from it will not save you. See it through." And my message in that stanza is, whatever you're going through, guess what? You're going to make it through. You're going to struggle. We all struggle. There's a season in our lives where we're going to struggle. It's not going to always be, back in the day, that my grandparents used to be the bed of ease. It's not always going to be easy, especially in today's society. But you have people in your lives. You have connections in your lives. You have people that want to hear you. Listen, just talk. And all I ask our young people to do is don't hold it in. Talk, speak. If you are in your classroom and you just need to scream and yell, just let it out, because holding it in hurts you even more mentally and physically. Letting it out is like releasing that pain, releasing that anger. And I tell the kids, there's a reason why you're doing it. Because if you look at the situation that you're going through, it's going to make you cry. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to make you feel bad. But guess what? There are systems in place for you to help you through it. All you have to do is talk to us. You don't have to tell me everything. I can put one and one together.
Right.
Because I've been in the system 23 years. You know, even as a father, you know, a young lady doesn't have to tell me if she's struggling, you know, mentally and physically, or she had a fight with her mom the night before. You don't have to tell me. I got to do it. Guess what? Come in, baby girl. Come in. Let's sit and talk. I'll wait. And that's the way I am. I stop anything I'm doing in the middle of my day and said, listen, come to my office, we need to talk. What's going on? You sure you're okay? All right, I'm okay. I'm all right. Okay. I'm going to leave you alone. Guess what? Before school is out, I have conversation. You know, they want to talk. And so that's what I do, man. I try to tell them, you know, trust the system, trust the ones you see every day that you love. Trust that teacher that's standing in front of you and saying, hey, good morning, class. Have a good night. Have a good evening. Trust that teacher that always have that little something that every other teacher may not have, that word to you, that hug, that handshake, the dap in the morning. You know, me, I'm a fruit man, so I always have fruit. I got kids that love grapes. I spend close to $40 to $50 to $60 on grapes a week because they know Dr. McKenzie got some grapes and I just need that little nourishment to get me through the day. I'll do it every day if I have to.
That's good.
Because I'm helping them out. So that's why I tell them.
That's good. That's good. So we're getting close to rounding it up.
Yes, sir.
But there's one question. This I feel like is not necessarily directly for the student athlete, but I think it's important because some of our student athletes will go on to be in the education field. And so I think this question will be a good question, not only for the future educator that may be a student athlete and watch this show, but even a word for our current educators. I know across this country, the majority of the teachers are not Dr. Moses McKenzie.
Right.
And it's hard for our kids. That's not the majority. So I ask you to take a quick moment, speak to that teacher who's wondering why they're having such a hard time getting through the kids, not understanding the kid's situation like yourself. Like, how do you speak to, and you may have had teachers along your career as a vice principal or principal. How do you talk to those educators about getting the best out of our kids and being empathetic to their situations?
Right. What I do is I tell a majority of my teachers when they're struggling, because I can see it. I think I can see character in everyone. I have a keen eye, a keen sense. I read body language a lot. I tell them, put yourself in their shoes. If you don't know what it's like to be in their shoes, you'll never understand the kid. You know, and I can touch on equity. A majority of, you know, teachers, even across the board, whether you're in the inner city or rural area, you know, their kitchen in their house is bigger than their 2-bedroom. They're sharing a bed with somebody else, or a brother or sister that probably it's just you, your hubby, and 2 kids. It could be that student with 4 or 5 other kids, and maybe an aunt or uncle in that household, in a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom. Put yourself in that child's shoes. And then ask yourself, will it get better? How can it get better? How can I make that child's day better? How can I make that little boy, that little girl smile? How am I going to come across to them when they're feeling down and they don't want to do no work? What am I going to do to change the environment? That's why it's so important for our teachers to have a welcoming environment in the classroom. You know, we always talk about teachers being teacher-centered. Teachers shouldn't talk a lot in front of our students. Guess who should be driving the lesson? The students. They should be the ones up at the board, you know, talking to their peers, going one-on-one with the teacher, asking and raising their hands if they have a question. And I think that we miss the mark as educators we push a lot on our students. We want to test them and find out what levels they're on. You know, and right now we're just not coming out of a period where we have a lot of students that lost a lot. It's called, you know, learning loss due to the pandemic, because we had to transition from being at home on a computer, and now we are back in person. It's going to take us another couple of years in order for that education strategies to really impact their lives and help them learn and get back on the learning level they're supposed to be in. And so my word to educators out there is know when to pivot. Know when to pivot. If you see something wrong in your classrooms, and I see it as an educator, you have to pivot and find out what can you do in order to change the environment. Look at the culture and the climate in your building and in your room. If the culture and the climate is not welcoming and it's not nurturing, then you have to pivot, okay? Pick the right people, try to get the right staff members who will go to the wall for your kids. Get the right staff members that's not just there for a paycheck. Everybody's gonna get their pay. Everybody's gonna get it. But get that staff member that is willing to take constructive criticism and not get in their feelings and say, yeah, okay, I got you. This is what I'm going to do. Thank you for the support, Dr. McKenzie. Thank you for the support, you know, Dr. Kopek. You know, that's what I tell educators. And when they're struggling, I tell them to come into my office. What's on your mind? What happened? I got to take care of a family member. First two things I tell my staff members is health and family come first. Okay. If you got to take a day, take a day. Listen, I know you want to be, you know, perfect attendance. You want the little money in the back end. Listen, if your family needs you, be there for your family, because you know what? They will turn around and be there for you. And your health is more important. You're no use. You're no good to your students if you're sick.
That's right.
Because they feed off of your energy.
All right.
You know what I mean? And so that's what I tell them. Listen, talk, pray, and if you need to vent, you vent, and we move together. And if there's anything we can do as administrators and as educators, what we need to do, and we should have been doing this a long time ago, we need to listen to our students. Listen.
Gotcha.
The greatest leaders are the ones who are able to listen. If you think it's all about you, you will lose every day. You will lose every single time, and your building will not be successful. Listen to the kids. The kids will tell you exactly what they need. All you have to do is to supply their demands. That's it.
That's good. That's good. And awesome information that you've given on today. And like every show, I just pray that whether it's a coach, whether it's an athlete, right, those watching will share the information, because it's awesome information that's going to help our young student athletes. So I appreciate the information you've given today. Sir. We have our last two questions we ask every show. And the first one is for the young person, young athlete, or just a young person in general. Mm-hmm. Why is it important to have positive people in your circle?
It's important to have positive people in your circle because they know what it takes to be successful. They already went down that road. They're able to help you and, you know, give you a warning, you know, don't go down that road. You know, if I was you, I would do this. They're able to give you solid advice. It's important to have people in your circle that are like-minded as well. Understand that your circle, you should surround yourself with people who have a driven mindset, who are goal-orientated, who believe in equity, who understands equity, who understands that it is a struggle being African American in today's society, that family is important. Okay, you need those people in your circle to say, you know what, hey, I got connections, great connections that will help you along the way. And so you need those positive people in your lives that are going to basically always tell you the truth and not hide it. That's what you need in your phone, always.
That's good. That's good. And the very last one we always like to ask, who or what is it that inspires you in life?
Oh, who inspired me? Like, that's tough, man. It boils down to my dad. That man, that's all I knew. You know, always listen to the stories when I was a baby. and him and my mom traveled with me when I was young, and they went to Jerusalem. And, my timing got mixed up. As a baby, everybody was asleep, I'm up. Everybody's up, I'm asleep. My dad never pushed me around in a stroller. He carried me everywhere. That's why I think he was so hard on me. Even till today, with him being 75 years old, I just turned 49. He's stubborn, but him being stubborn allows me to see why he did what he did as a father. And I thank him for it all the time, and we're father and son. We butt heads. Yeah, we supposed to. I'm a grown man. But he reminds me, listen, son, and one thing I don't do, I never disrespect him. I don't disrespect him nor my mom because he know the way. And that man prayed for me. Him and my mom, they prayed for me. So I think it's my dad who inspired me. If I call on him, he's there. Definitely my dad, without doubt.
That's good. That's good. And I go way back, knowing his father, the Moses McKenzie Sr. I go back, whether it was growing up listening to Dr. McKenzie and the Gospel Highlights,
right?
or even playing football at Eastside, and that was who prayed over our team every game.
Right.
And so awesome, man. So I know. I know the awesome man that not only our brother here, back in high school, it was Big Mo and I was Lil Biggs.
Yeah, remember that, right?
But again, I know the awesome young man, not only himself, but even his brother Blue that I was blessed to play, graduated the same year with his brother, I just know the awesome father that they were blessed to have. And so again, man, bro, Dr. Moses Jr., we thank you for joining us today and the awesome information. We just pray that you continue to do awesome things in the school system and whatever other careers that you decide to go into, man. Thanks for what you're doing in the school system. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you so much. Truly blessed and looking forward to spreading the word, man. And keep doing what you do. God's going to continue to bless you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So you that join us, I say it every show. It is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. I'm not going to say a lot. Take this information, apply it, spread the word to other people, and continue to join us as we go out and up. Have a good one.